Watch this.
I haven't read all of it, but I've read enough of it to know I've got concerns about it.
It's something that could be said of almost any of the bills being considered at the State House. Governor Little had a little more to say about some of the important ones over the most important meal of the day. Having concerns wasn't just limited to Governor Little, especially when it comes to the idea to restrict and possibly repeal Idaho's Medicaid expansion, which is why they came up with a new idea today. It's one thing to get hooked by fly fishing. Happens in Idaho every day. But it's another to reel in a new friend because of the loss of an old rod. We have been tracking Idaho's quest to have public money pay for private schools since day one of this year's legislative session. Actually, a little bit longer, since lawmakers have been trying to crack this nut since 2019. But this session, the most serious contender was hinted at in a public hearing on the first day, introduced a few weeks later, and by February 19th, it had cleared the House and the Senate. This is the bill that would give families a $5,000 tax credit for educational expenses, including private school tuition. House Bill 93 waits patiently in the Governor Brad Little's inbox, waiting for him to do something with it. And he has 3 more days to do something with it if he so chooses. He can sign it, he can veto it, or he can let it become law without a signature. So just what will he do with it is something members of the media tried to glean this morning while having breakfast with the governor. You might remember the same day Representative Wendy Horman held that public introduction to what would be House Bill 93, Governor Little said this in his State of the State address.
Any school choice measure I would consider must be done the Idaho way. That means it is fair, responsible, transparent, and accountable.
Well, today, with that bill on his desk, Governor Little was asked how many of those 4 criteria does House Bill 93 cover.
The only part of what I said that I really agreed with was the price of it. There's not enough accountability in it. But to that mind, I don't think there's enough accountability in the money we give public schools either.
Well, Governor Little readily admitted he's never seen a perfect bill in his office. Yet House Bill 93, while within his budgetary limits, is it fair? Is it responsible? It isn't transparent? And is it accountable? Those are the questions that we're asking. But obviously, there's a lot of focus lately on what was that last on the list, that accountability part. But to shrug off the fact that parental choice tax credit bill isn't accountable enough because, well, neither are Idaho public schools seems a bit odd. Between being an accredited school and background checks for certified teachers, administrators, and other staff at that school who have access to children, from protections against discrimination or for students with disabilities, to disclosures of budgets, to testing to make sure there's a return on the investment. Those are just some of the things on the short list of what is required of Idaho public schools when it comes to accountability. House Bill 93 requires none of those things. Only that non-public schools would have to teach math, science, social studies, and English or language arts. And there's also a parent survey. That's it. By the way, this bill is not exactly veto-proof, having passed the House with just 60% and 57% in the Senate. 2/3 is needed to override a veto. And as we also talked about, and what was brought up this morning, the opposition to this bill has been vocal and, well, voluminous.
Thousands.
Is it more one way than the other?
Yeah, well, of course, with what happened last week, we listen, but we also verify with what happened last week.
And so, yeah, how much weight do you put into that response to your office?
I put weight into it. I mean, it's important to me to know that I don't believe that Idaho is or this country is a true democracy where you just make decisions based on the number of people that show up. But you absolutely have to take that into account.
Absolutely. So what did happen last week? Well, the governor's office tells us they got so many phone calls after that bill cleared the Senate, they had to increase the number or how many their system could handle at once. And yes, Idaho isn't a direct democracy. We know this. But Governor Little did refer to the, quote, voice of the people when talking about the Medicaid expansion repeal bill still floating around the State House. He said Idahoans overwhelmingly voted for expansion in the 2018 initiative when talking about how maybe shouldn't be messed with too much. Okay, so speaking of medical care, Governor Little was also a little wary of the whammy bill. House Bill 176 would end the 53-year-long co-op Idaho has with Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, and Montana, otherwise known as WWAMI, to participate in the University of Washington's medical school, since Idaho does not have a medical school of its own. The bill's sponsor wants to do this because, well, UW couldn't commit to offering more spots in that program for Idaho students, and because the school wouldn't agree to restrict instruction on abortion, since Idaho law forbids it. But apparently, Idaho money doesn't really pay for that anyway, according to a Washington State public financial report. Regardless, Governor Little didn't indicate which way he was leaning on that bill, only that he would like Idaho to pick itself up off the floor, off the bottom of the list for doctors per capita.
I want the state to continue to increase the number of doctors we have available. Anything that disrupts the trajectory of high quality doctors, I'm going to have an issue. I just want to know all the details.
The WWAMI bill, House Bill 176, has been waiting for a House floor debate for more than a week. House Bill 93, by the way, the parental choice tax credit bill, was given to the governor on Friday, which means he has until Thursday to take action on it. Finally, circling back to Governor Little's State of the State and budget address, he mentioned he wanted to give $100 million in tax relief this year to Idaho families. However, so far this session, there have been 3 tax relief bills introduced, from income tax to grocery sales tax to property tax, totaling more than $400 million. With Idaho's financial commitments and the $200 million Governor Little would like to set aside as a surplus every year for the next 4, $100 million and $400 million don't exactly meet in the middle.
I'd love the signal that every year in Idaho your tax burden is going to get less. But you've got to temper that with all those other things, so they know I'm not very happy about it. So if I would have thought we could do 450, I would have proposed 450.
So something's got to give a little bit as we get through the rest of the session. Governor Little was also asked about the Medicaid expansion repeal bill that was already passed the House. That'd be House Bill 138. That would place 11 criteria the state would have to meet by 2026, or we would repeal Medicaid expansion and push 90,000 Idahoans out from under federal health care insurance coverage. Other than saying he has concerns about the bill, the governor invoked his policy of not commenting on pending legislation, as you kind of heard a little bit of that. However, it looks like that bill may not be covered by that policy because, well, House Bill 138 looks to be dead. We know this because Representative Jordan Redmond introduced a second Medicaid bill this morning. And this Medicaid Reform and Cost Containment Act came about, as Representative Redmond explained it, as a compromise of concerns they heard as House Bill 138 moved forward.
Some of the differences between 138 and this bill is we've removed the 36-month lifetime limit. We've also removed the 50,000 enrollee cap and the repeal mechanism. Those came up most in this committee and on the floor.
So they've made some changes, but for those who are concerned about it, maybe not enough. This bill still includes the work requirement for Medicaid coverage and several other hurdles for approval. And according to Representative Redmond, these new requirements would save the state of Idaho $16 million for 2026 and $27 million each year after. House Bill 328 now awaits a hearing in the House Health and Welfare Committee. Well, accounting for almost 20% of the state's economic output, you can bet agriculture is going to get some attention at the State House. For example, House Bill 83, Senate Bill 1039, House Bill 252, and House Bill 233. They're all ag-related, and they all impact the industry for the better or for the worse, some more than others. House Bill 233 is about adjusting an ag land preservation bill. And the idea is to offer some incentives for farmers and ranchers to make their land a protected area. And the reason behind it, well, Idaho's losing that ag land very quickly, nearly 150,000 acres from 2017 to 2022. Those other 3 bills, they focus on immigration, which could impact Idaho producers. There are an estimated 35,000 unauthorized immigrants in Idaho. And with Idaho dealing with a labor shortage currently, well, that could cripple the ag industry. And all of these were discussed at the Nampa Ag Forum held by the chamber there. And Hunter, Funk, you sat in on this and listened to some of the concerns that were brought up.
Yeah, there were some major key players there at the meeting, like the Department of Ag. You had Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke, city and county leaders, various agricultural commodities, educators, insurance companies, even students. More than 500 people sat in to listen to better understand what's going on in the legislature and how to best protect the future of ag. Well, in the forum, there was a high school student, a part of the FFA group and also known as Future Farmers of America. She talked about how her family's concerned about how they will continue to operate if the various bills on immigration were to be passed. One of the key speakers, Samantha Parrott with the Snake River Sugar Beet Growers Association, says families like these need to talk to their legislators and association groups to share the impact that it could bring.
Really sit and think about how important the agricultural industry is to our economy. If we lose access to our workforce, if we lose our farm ground, if we don't have access to water, we will not continue to be the powerhouse ag state that we have always been. Politics is not a sideline sport, it's a contact sport. So it's time for everybody to get involved. And if you want to keep Idaho as a strong ag state, please talk to your local elected officials and your legislators.
Parrott says if these producers testify during the hearings, their businesses could be at risk. And coming up at 6, we're going to dive deeper into the other topics that were discussed, like the good and bad of regulations. But as a lot of people put it at the forum, this conversation was what could happen if in Idaho, if people just kind of sit back and don't do anything about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, lawmakers included, a lot of them, I think this is just a black and white issue. It's cut and dry. It's this way or the highway. Obviously, with the concerns that you're bringing up, this is not that case.
It's a gray zone.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Hunter. Well, as you heard, immigration been a very hot topic this session, from Idaho getting involved in deportation, possibly, to a possible guest worker program, to another bill making it illegal to harbor an undocumented immigrant. All those bills have been introduced at the State House, by the way. Meanwhile, outside the State House, the talk was about the positive impact of undocumented workers on Idaho's economy. Audrielle Tackett has that and more in today's 411.
Basically, this brings us into line with what the current administration is trying to accomplish across our country.
A new immigration bill was introduced this morning in House Ways and Means. The bill makes it illegal for any person or organization in Idaho to knowingly help, hide, or transport someone in the United States without proper documentation. The bill was printed and awaits a committee hearing.
You've got 10,000 jobs that are being filled by somebody that's here without status, that job otherwise isn't going to be filled by a domestic workforce.
More than just lawmakers are talking about immigration today. In Boise, a group of community leaders and immigration experts gathered at the City Club of Boise's Immigration Forum to talk about the profound impact of President Donald Trump's policies on Idaho's economy. According to a 2024 study from the University of Idaho, our state has about 35,000 undocumented workers, with 10,000 of them working on farms, ranches, and dairies. They say with our low unemployment rate, we don't have enough workers to replace our undocumented workforce, which results in our economy suffering. Interfaith Sanctuary has officially filed a rehearing petition asking the Idaho Supreme Court to reconsider its January decision. The nonprofit says the ruling that blocked their new shelter project doesn't protect their basic rights as property owners. They argue even if City Council made mistakes, they should still get a fair shot at making their own case. Interfaith also warns this could make it nearly impossible for anyone trying to develop property when neighbors object. The court now has to decide whether to take another look at the case. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Audrielle Tackett.
People pull a lot of things out of the Boise River, but this lost and found story caught one angler off guard and reunited another with a haul of memories. The 208 is intended to be a conversation, and this is the time we remind you to join it by texting us at 208-321-5614. Ask us or talk to us about anything. Just don't forget to include your name and the hashtag #the208. The one that got away. It's a phrase usually reserved for the tallest of fish tales, but this story isn't necessarily about a fish. It's more about something that did get away, though. That is until another angler caught a lot of people's attention on social media. Aspen Shumpert casts a light on the rest of this story.
I like to get out here and do something on my own alone and get away from everything else.
For Mike Rotz, the Boise River has been his go-to fishing spot the last 5 years.
It's easy to get to, and then weather isn't that good. You don't have to drive through the mountains, so it's easier.
Mike has been perfecting his technique all his life.
My father taught me how to fish, and then I picked up fly fishing when my brother made me a rod about 30 years ago.
And a faithful companion has been on all of his fishing missions.
I've had the rod for about 18 years, and I've had the reel for about 30. It's a St. Croix 5-weight, and the reel is a Scientific Angler's reel. They don't make them anymore, so I like this one.
On a Wednesday afternoon earlier this month, Mike went to the river as usual.
I just caught a fish a few minutes before, and I threw my line out, and it snagged on something on the other side of the river.
He put his rod down and walked around to the other side of the river to free his rod. When he came back, it appears his rod took a plunge.
I walked up and down the river for a ways, and I just couldn't find it.
He looked for an hour before heading home.
I'm disappointed because I like my rod and I've got an attachment to it. I didn't think I'd ever get it back. I'd given up.
But with a small piece of hope left, he cast a desperate plea to social media.
On Sunday, I went and posted on Facebook a group that I'd lost the rod, and I described it and hoping that somebody might find it.
The Boise River has also lured Derek Hicks and his tackle box.
I love this river. It's got to be one of the best urban fisheries. We've got the greenbelt right here, and so it's easy to just pop along to different spots along the way.
Derek went to the river Friday.
As I'm fishing, I'm always just cleaning up as I go. There's always trash and things to clean up. I was just walking up the river.
Something caught his eye, a fly line wrapped around a boulder.
And as I pulled it in, there was a rod and reel attached to it still, which was a huge surprise. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, I got a new rod and reel. This is amazing.
But a deeper dive showed he needed to find its owner.
I could tell it was an older rod and reel. It's got a reel on there they don't make anymore. And so I just know that this kind of gear can be handed down through families. And so I suspected there's a good chance it might be really meaningful to someone.
Derek had made a post on Instagram that Sunday about what he had found, the same day Mike had made his post.
I thought best case scenario, a few people in Boise might see my video, and maybe in an extreme best case scenario, we might find the owner.
Among hundreds of comments and shares, Jonathan, another guy in the fly fishing community, saw both posts and connected the dots.
And he had a screenshot of Mike's post on Facebook, and it had the description of the rod in there. So I immediately knew it was the right rod.
Derek reached out to Mike, and all three guys met up for a Riverside reunion.
He pulled it out of his car, and he had taken care of it for me, and I really appreciated getting it back. It really made me feel good because I got something back that I thought I'd lost.
I just wanted to do what I would hope someone else would do.
Leaving three guys who were strangers with the same passion, now friends in the same waters.
The fly fishing community is a good group of people here, and it's just proof that there are good people out there.
The three guys have since met up and gone fishing together more than once. Derek and Mike are thankful their social media posts reach the right people like Jonathan. And in a time where social media can be divisive at times, it's used for a positive way in this story.
Some more than others, yeah. That's a good point. All right, thank you very much, Aspen.
Well, if you're a light sleeper and you live in Meridian, our early morning cold front may have woken you up. A couple claps of thunder as that front rolled through around 1 or 2 in the morning, but it cleared out very quickly, and we've enjoyed a lot of blue sky across the region, but a notably cooler and breezier day out there today compared to yesterday. Twin Falls at 45 right now. Boise's down to 47 after landing in the low 50s earlier this afternoon, and we are mostly in those low to mid 30s across the mountains. McCall a bit cloudy. There's been some light snow falling across some of our mountain locations. That should all start wrapping up by tonight, and we have nice, dry, sunny conditions coming our way for the rest of the work week. It is breezy out there, though. Still those northwest winds anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour from Caldwell eastward into the Magic Valley, so that will make our temperatures a little bit harder to enjoy as far as a real feel outside. But skies will stay clear overnight. The wind should start subsiding, and then with lower moisture in the lower levels of the atmosphere, there is the potential for some fog to develop tomorrow, and it will be a cold start to your Wednesday, down into the upper 20s across most of the Snake Plain, teens and single digits in the mountains. We rebound nicely, though, another day with temperatures in the low to mid 50s across the Treasure Valley. I think Thursday, though, might be my pick day of the work week. A little breezy, but highs back up near 60 degrees. We stay gorgeous through the end of February and into March over the weekend. A couple rain showers possible Sunday and Monday, and slightly cooler conditions arrive next Tuesday.
All right, Steve has a couple of questions about what we've been talking about today, especially with that governor or breakfast with the governor this morning. If Idaho needs more doctors, more funds for education and education facilities, and lots more public services now, why is any GOP legislator, why are they talking about any kind of tax cuts or rebates at this time? Let's It's a good question, Steve. And that, again, that $100 million versus $400 million, something's going to have to give on that one. Little wants more doctors in Idaho, yet signed the trigger law, the anti-abortion bill that has driven many OBs and other physicians out of the state. Good luck on getting more docs with that law in place, says Jack in Boise. Problem was, we were at the bottom of the list even before that law was signed and went into effect a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, Governor Little's excuse that public schools lack accountability show his lack of knowledge about public versus private schools. That's Chris in Meridian who sent that in. When Governor Little let a bill become into law without signing it the last 2 times, it made him look weak. One way or another, he should veto or approve a bill instead of, I'm not responsible for this, no blood on my hands. So Chris wants him to sign the bill or veto it one way or another, not just let it become law after 5 days. As far as immigration, how about give them some kind of non-citizen exemption work card? That's the way the farmers can get help and not be hurt by the GOP policy, kind of a guest worker program, which has been introduced this year at the State House. Oh, and somebody else says, oh, by the way, I left a 6-pack at the river. If anybody finds it, you might make a new friend or 3. We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.